Cyclone Debbie has crossed the Queensland coast at Airlie Beach with catastrophic force.
We're still being savaged by gale force winds from Debbie, and this is certainly a developing natural disaster.
Bowen, home to 10,000 people, was in the firing line.
Proserpine is now emerging as the worst hit town, where there are reports of significant damage.
Night's beginning to fall, but these winds are showing no sign of slowing down. They're dangerous, they're destructive.
The Category 4 system, with winds in excess of 260 kilometres an hour, smashed the Whitsunday Islands and coastal communities from Bowen to Macomb.
When we started to talk around evacuations in the local disaster committee, it was kind of like, we've never done that before, and it was starting to think that we're in for something more serious.
We got the phone call to say that we needed to go to the shelter. So we spent all day Saturday at the shelter preparing.
On the Sunday before the cyclone, it was decided that we're going to evacuate a few of the areas, so a lot of our focus went to that, working with the SES and the other emergency services to get the evacuations underway.
We didn't know if it was going to come through Airlie Beach or through Bowen or divert south and go, to Mackay or so. We had to try and evacuate people across a large area.
The day prior to Cyclone Debbie hitting, I was taking calls more so about what flood zones we're in, do we have to evacuate, where can we evacuate to?
I don't think we could have been more prepared. We did everything we possibly could.
We had so many come into A&E because I was scared of what was going to happen, and they came in and then there was no getting home.
As time went on, it was getting more intense, so then you were getting more of the, we have evacuated, however now our place is not safe that we're in, where can we go from here?
The Whitsunday Region, we've got 24,000 square kilometres, and the cyclone impacted every square centimetre of that 24,000 square kilometres.
That I was at the front of the house when it happened, and it was just a huge bang, and at the same time I heard Tegan screaming. I went to the bathroom and found him on the floor, unconscious. Well, at that stage I didn't know if he was alive.
I had been just checking windows, etc. around the house, making everything secure, and then I moved into the bathroom just to check that, and that was it. The impact was there and then at about 11 o'clock, and I was unconscious quite quickly.
When I'm actually on the phone to the boss being notified about that job, I'm watching the house directly opposite us being totally annihilated. The roof was coming off, the walls were falling apart. I didn't actually know at that particular stage that there was a person in that home. I wish I had known at the time. I would have run across and got them out and told them to come to the station.
Our roof came off at about 2 o'clock. All I can remember is the sound of the tin coming away and then the insulation just flying around the house.
It was like a jet engine roaring outside, and I remember looking out the window because I spent about 12 hours holding on to the front door so they didn't blow in.
It is actually the first cyclone where I've actually was a little bit scared.
It was nerve-wracking. I was anxious. I was very overwhelmed.
I've talked to very old locals who've never experienced that before, ever.
It must have been nearly 2.5 hours in, and my son rang me from Gladstone, and he said, "Mum, you're just going to have to hang in there, be strong," he said, "because this thing's going to go for hours." And I said, "Mate, he's not going to live for hours."
We have a policy in the Queensland Ambulance Service that we're not supposed to take our vehicles out in wind greater than 80 kilometres an hour, and obviously the wind gusts were a lot greater than that.
I said to Tegan, if they can't come to us, we've got to get Dad to them. I'm going to go and get the truck.
Because we've got the generator at the station and the TV and everything was still working, I noticed that there was sort of like an eye of a storm that was coming through Airlie Beach. I've jumped in my ambulance, met Mark at scene.
And as I raced to the front door, the blue and red lights come flashing around the corner, which was never been so relieved to see.
You know, he was very seriously injured. He had a deep laceration to his upper arm that actually included his thoracic cavity.
It couldn't have picked a worse track for us at council because it basically affected the 4 major towns in the region.
The major challenge was communication. We had no communication. We didn't know what was going on anywhere else.
Early hours of Wednesday morning, we all just wanted to go home, and then you started to think, what's out there?
Our immediate thing after the cyclone was just making sure that all our people are right, all our people are safe.
We're dealing with a bit of a disaster within the coordination centre.
Ceilings were falling down from above us. We had floods where basically we had set up our call centre.
The building failed all of us. It made it very hard to coordinate anything in that centre.
It was very hard working conditions as well. We had no power because of the water inundation. It affected our power.
We had to move patients to corridors and all that because it was coming in through the air conditioning.
It was 4:30 in the morning that we opened, and it was me and 2 other gentlemen, and we went out the back because the first door you open is the generator door. And we sort of went out to make sure the coast is clear because we had no communication with the LDCC. And we just stood there and could not believe that there was still life outside.
After the cyclone, everything was basically unserviceable. Everything from the sewage system, the water system, the road network, the whole lot. The response and the phone calls were already coming in by that stage, so all that sort of had to get set aside and we had to get on to the task of actually coordinating the event.
We actually lost our roof, or part of our roof, and our fence. And the next morning after we arrived here, as we were trying to clean out the shop, people were pulling up out the front, wanting supplies, etc. So with guys up on the roof putting tarps on, we opened the doors and started serving basically straight away.
The clean-up effort started the day after the cyclone, the wind stopped.
It was a big struggle to get sewer connections back on as quick as what we could.
A lot of those guys, even though they operate in Proserpine, a lot of them live down in Early Beach, Cannonbell area. So they couldn't get in for about quite a number of days. So they basically set up their own operational centre at one of the manager's garage.
Our main office was actually the idea of my 9-year-old son Bradley. When we couldn't get anywhere, he said, "Dad, why don't you set up base in the shed?" And he went around setting up desks, computers. He even had name tags set up for my managers, and he kept notes.
We were successful in making sure all roads were opened from day one, except those towards Proserpine, which were still under, flood inundation. But that was our highest priority at the time, just to make sure supply trucks and emergency services could come to the region.
3 days after the cyclone, once the road was open to air, we actually sent a truck up to air and got more supplies to bring back here, as we were one of the few places who were able to operate.
Some people we had to get to by helicopter, others by boat, just make sure that everyone was right. And then we had the long struggle of patching the region back up.
The progress in bringing the infrastructure back up to speed in 11 months has been pretty amazing.
People walk around and go, gosh, the environment looks so good, it's come back, and how are your people? And look, I see every day those people that just help.
There was a huge amount of work involved in the clean-up. There was well in excess of 250,000 cubic metres of green waste. We were in the end running out of sites to place the stuff.
We had to approximately put about 70 generators out on site. So we had some big hours there. At times the boys were working 22-hour days.
You just did what you had to do to get back to normal.
Relationships that we built between ourselves, the rural fires and the army is something we'll take with us forever. And they had so much big gear.
The army were incredible. We've got them earmarked every time the wind blows again.
Once you go through something like that, I think one thing it teaches us is there's not much we can't face if we band together.
Probably the main thing that I'm going to take away is a new found respect for the military, the police, the ambulance, the fire service and the SES. Those people really stood up and helped our community.
The police and the other emergency services are all responding to these jobs, but they've still got their own properties which have got damaged homes and things like that, still turning up, doing a 12-hour day or longer, and then still having to look after their own properties as well.
I do think I'm one of the luckiest people alive to work in the place that I do with such an amazing team. We have lots of disasters and they seem to always rise to the challenge.
It was so nice to actually meet a lot of other people within the community that actually pulled together to make a part of this team.
The community values in this area are a lot greater than people give them credit for.
Everybody helped everybody. There was no you do it by yourself. They all got in and helped each other.
I'm very proud of the region, and lots of people suffered, and I don't think anyone was really quite prepared for what was to come afterwards, so I think they've done really well.
Bowen is a very resilient community.
As soon as you say to someone, hey, this happened to me, like, all right, what can I do to help? Do you need anything? Like, it's such a giving town.
I remember people just walking in the shed, never said a word, dropped cartons of beer off bickies and things.
We grew some pumpkins and we donated some money to the SES.
The younger generation cops a lot of flack now, and I think that was a great example of young people doing something, purposely doing something good.
I think the community is just so much stronger now than it ever was before, and I think with the next event, if there is ever one, it would just become stronger again.
It's your home, and I think I'd be quite happy to stay here for quite a while.
We're going to have more events further down the track. Certainly not in any hurry for them, but we will have events further down the track. So it's a matter of building in resilience into our infrastructure so it can handle some of the conditions that we do face in the north.